Welcome back to Fantasy Football. Today we're talking about league-winning wide receivers, and we each have a trio of guys we think could be league winners for 2026. For Heath, you have George Pickens, Zay Flowers, and Luther Burden. Dave, you got Malik Nabers, Jaylen Waddle, and Parker Washington. For me, it's DeVonta Smith, Emeka Egbuka, and D.J. Moore. So Heath, we'll start with your guys, and I have some questions for you in regards to each of these wide receivers. So let's start with Pickens. Can he be a league winner if CeeDee Lamb is healthy?
I absolutely think he can. He averaged 15.4 PPR fantasy points per game in his last 11 games with CeeDee Lamb last year, and that was while scoring 3 touchdowns in those 11 games. We all know George Pickens has the ability to score double-digit touchdowns in a season. If he just has that type of usage and scores the touchdowns at his round 2/3 cost, he could be a league winner.
This is one of your favorite players, and that's Zay Flowers. So the question for you is, the ceiling for Zay Flowers is blank.
First round value. He was top 5 in route participation, top 5 in target share, top 5 in yards per route run. He just needs the Ravens to throw the ball more than they did last year. And last year they were 15% below Lamar Jackson's career norm. He also needs to score touchdowns. Those two things happen. He's a top 5 wide receiver.
And then with Luther Burden, we got this groin injury now that we're dealing with. You brought up something good on our breakout show yesterday, that it's kind of saving you from yourself because a lot of people are getting excited about Luther Burden. You said you would have been taking him in round 3 if we had continued on this hype train. Now when would you take Luther Burden, and how concerned are you that this injury may linger?
I think you have to look at him at the end of round 4 or the beginning of round 5. He's going to have a round 5 ADP. It was around 48 before the injury, probably going to be closer to 58 now. And so the great thing about that is, before drafting him in round 3, you had a much smaller margin of error in terms of finding some upside beyond his costs. Now, if you can draft him in round 5, the upside's still the same. The groin injury doesn't change that. There's a lot more room for him to make a profit in round 5.
Dave, when you look at Burden, and we know there's Colston Loveland, and we know more importantly from the receiver conversation, there's Rome Odunze, who was awesome to start the year last year and then had the foot injury. Which receiver, based on cost, are you more excited about?
I'm more excited about Burden than I am Odunze, and I think it's just because the team seems to be more excited about Luther Burden. The fact that he could be in this position where he's going to be versatile, and that's something that I'm looking for from my receivers in fantasy this year. How many of these wide receivers can line up anywhere across the formation and work at all 3 levels of the field? And I think Luther Burden can do that, and at bare minimum, he can work in that short area and be an easy target for Caleb Williams. And Caleb needs some easy targets after his completion rate has not been great to start his career.
It's going to be fun to see how Burden does, and certainly going to be fun to see how Zay Flowers does. Check out our Fantasy Football Today podcast for a fun bet between Heath Cummings and Adam Azer regarding maybe some facial hair there. All right, Dave, the 3 guys for you: Malik Nabers, Jaylen Waddle, Parker Washington. Some questions for you in regards to these 3.
All right, shoot.
Nabers coming back from the ACL tear. We know so far everything has been positive. The earliest you would draft Malik Nabers is?
Late round 2. I'm ready. I think he's close enough to being close enough, and that means that he's going to be out there week 1 for the Giants, going to be the easy target leader for that team. I think Jackson Dart isn't a total disaster as a thrower. I don't think Matt Nagy is a total disaster as a play caller. Remember, in Chicago, he had Mitchell Trubisky. I think Jackson Dart is at least 1 step better than Mitchell Trubisky, even at this point in his young career, and everybody's going to know to throw Malik Nabers the football. I think he's worth a pick in late round 2, and I think he'll finish as a top 12 wide receiver.
Jaylen Waddle joins the Broncos after a couple disappointing seasons in Miami. Why is he a league winner?
He's going to get volume through an opportunity that he hasn't had in like 4 years. You've got to turn back the clock to 2022, the last time Jaylen Waddle was getting the ball a lot in an offense and making plays with it. And when he did, when things were right in Miami in 2022, before Tyreek Hill, Tua was there. It was over 16 PPR points per game as long as Tua was on the field with Jaylen Waddle. Now it's Bo Nix. That's a step up. And Sean Payton does have a track record of hyper-targeting his #1 receiver. This is another wideout that's got versatility. He can line up anywhere, and he can win at all 3 levels. I know he's banged up right now. The dude has played at least 14 games every year of his 6-year career.
Does it bother you that we're getting Pat Bryant buzz on top of Cortland Sutton still being there?
I think it hurts Sutton more than it hurts Waddle. I think Pat Bryant could end up being real close in targets to Sutton, and I think Jaylen Waddle just runs away getting north of 7.5 targets per game.
Okay, if you've been paying attention to anything that's happened so far this offseason, Parker Washington is the most buzzworthy name in fantasy football right now. And
for good reason.
For a good reason. And so you have him as a league winner. So, Dave, here we go. We got all these wide receivers in Jacksonville with Brian Thomas Jr. and Travis Hunter and Jacoby Myers, whatever order you want to put those guys in, including Washington. Right now, he's going 85th overall.
Steal.
I don't think that's going to be where Parker Washington goes. I think we're going to see him creep into round 6. Is he going to be overpriced?
Jamie, I would take him in late round 5 in full PPR. I think he's absolutely going to be worth it. This is another one of those versatile wide receivers. Maybe you don't think of him as a winner deep down the field, and I don't think the Jaguars need to ask him to do that, given who else they have at wideout. But I think push comes to shove with the questions about the run game in Jacksonville. We can see Parker Washington continue to get a ton of targets. He had the same pace from week 7 on last year as CeeDee Lamb had for the entire season, 14.4 PPR points per game. That number should at least stay steady. Drafting him in round 5, 6, 7, I think that's excellent value.
Would you do that?
7, yes. Late
6
round,
now?
late round 6, maybe. Yeah, this is the type of guy that I generally feel really uncomfortable with. When it's just like we had kind of 2.5 years of we kind of knew who Parker Washington was, and then we had a 6-game stretch or a 4-game stretch that's just out of this world, and then we have to draft him as if that's going to happen again. And so I'll hedge a little bit. If I'm in a draft with a bunch of people that are not on social media and they don't realize that everybody's gone insane about Parker Washington, I will definitely draft him in late round 6, early round 7. But I'm not. I can't get him anywhere else.
By the way, the 4-game stretch that Heath is talking about, that was his last 4 games to end the year. 19 PPR points per game.
It was awesome.
We're not drafting him based on that expectation. It's more 5 points per game lower than that. 14 PPR points per game. Yeah, I think I'm okay with that as a top 60 pick.
Do you get internet in the cave that you'll be drafting in? That league?
You know, hopefully not.
All right, we'll see. All right, the 3 guys for me, DeVonta Smith, Emeka Egbuka, DJ Moore, 2 of those guys dealing with injuries right now. Smith dealing with a hamstring injury, has yet to practice in training camp. Not ideal. Egbuka left with what's reported as a toe injury yesterday. Hopefully he'll be okay. DJ Moore has been fine so far. So the questions I have for myself are, is Emeka Egbuka being drafted too far ahead of Chris Godwin? I think that answer is yes, because I do think Chris Godwin is going to be much better than he was the last couple of years, or at least the last year. But Egbuka has a chance to be absolutely awesome. Let's hope that toe injury is fine.
They're saying it's minor.
Yeah, but it's still turf toe. You heard that being thrown out there.
Oh, that would be bad.
So that's something just to keep an eye on there. But I think round 3 is the right spot for Emeka Egbuka. When you look at DeVonta Smith, I also would take him in round 3, but I want to see him on the field. Again, very small sample size, but 3 games without A.J. Brown. In those 3 games, averaged 16 PPR points per game. The targets were off the charts. And so hopefully he's back on the field and helping Jalen Hurts and helping maybe their social media account with Jalen Hurts throwing the ball a little bit better to a guy like DeVonta Smith. For DJ Moore, can he do what Stefon Diggs did in Buffalo, which was absolutely awesome when he first joined the Bills? By all accounts, DJ Moore has been fantastic. I would throw out everything you saw from him last year when he only got 85 targets. In the 2 years he played with Joe Brady, when Brady was the offense coordinator in Carolina, and DJ Moore, early part of his career, at least 13.9 PPR points per game in those 2 seasons. So that would certainly put him at a higher level than where he's being drafted. As you see, the 29th wide receiver off the board. I would actually take DJ Moore in round 4. Very excited about him for this season. All right, the Twitter poll that we have is, which trio of wide receivers do you like better? So Heath's trio, Dave's trio, my trio. Very close poll here. So we have all 3 of these guys: Pickens, Flowers, Burden for Heath, Nabers, Waddle, Washington for Dave, and Smith, Egbuka, Moore for me. Slight edge, 36.8% in my favor. Then Heath's guys next, 36.5%, and Dave coming in at 3rd. But again, very close poll for all 3 of these guys, 26.7. All right, we're going to take a break right now. We come back and we'll talk about some league-winning tight ends for you. Sam Laporta, Colston Loveland, Tucker Kraft. Can they help you win your fantasy leagues in 2026? That's next on FFT.